Hey y'all, it's Mike or True American Craftsman, and to start this project, we're going to use 7/4 walnut that's approximately 7 inches wide and 38 inches long. We're going to cut two pieces at 17 inches each. Now for the Star Wars Millennium Falcon, you don't have to use walnut, but I figured it would turn out really nice, that's why I decided to use it. Once I got both the boards cut to size, I brought it over to the jointer and got one edge squared off, and then I also squared off one face side. I then brought the boards over to the planer and got them both to equal thicknesses. Once they were both even, I brought it over to the table saw and set it at 1.25 inch. This measurement is actually going to be the thickness of the board, as we're going to turn it onto its side to get the edge profile, which would then make it an edge grain board. For the two boards that I'm using, I'll be able to get 9 strips, usable strips out of them for the Falcon. However, if the width of the original boards were a little bit smaller, you might not be able to make it as wide. When I was checking the joints, I noticed a couple of them weren't the best, so I brought them back over to the jointer and hit them individually, making them perfect. So currently the thickness of the boards is actually 1¼ inches, and the width of each individual board is just under 1.5 inches. This leaves our whole usable board right around 13¼ inches. So now it's time to get all the pieces glued up. I set them all on my flag jig and brought the Titebond 3 wood glue out. Now usually I like to use Titebond 3 for any type of cutting board or charcuterie board. However, I ran out and didn't even notice that I was running out, so I had to switch to Titebond 2 for the rest of it. So because of how thick the boards are, I wasn't able to use the butterfly nuts that I usually use on the flag jig, so I just got my 6-inch bar clamps and used them to help put pressure downward, so there was no bowing in the boards when they were getting clamped up. Now it's up to you if you wanted to wipe the glue squeeze out from the top of the board after you get the clamps on. However, with how many clamps and bars I have on it right now, I decided just to wait for it to harden up, and I'll scrape it off with the chisel later on. Like a lot of the glue ups I do, I try to do them at nighttime, so that way the glue has plenty of time overnight to set up. So right here I'm just taking all the clamps off as the glue was already set the next morning, and we're going to go ahead and sand it down and chisel all the extra glue off. And at this point, all I do is sand to 120 grit, because we still have to put this beast on the CNC, so there'll be plenty of time to bring it up to the proper grit later on. Alright, y'all, so I just finished getting all the glue off. I sanded it to 120 grit. Now it's time to take it over to the CNC and get the program running. I'll show you that here in a little bit. And then once we get that set up, we'll be able to cut the Falcon into it, and then we'll be ready to rock. Alright, y'all, so we're getting ready to put the board onto the CNC. It's going to be 17 inches across by 12 3/4. I did have to take it over to the table saw and trim it down a little bit, because I did want to run it through the planer one more time. So I did trim it down to 12 3/4 for the height. We're going to lay that down onto my waste board. I use these two boards right on the side to make sure I keep a right angle all the time. And then I'm just going to put these cool little tightening clamps on. So I know that a lot of people don't have a CNC. Hey, if you do and you want the SVG file, let me know. Just email me, trueamericancrafts@gmail.com, and I'll send it your way for this for the Millennium Falcon cutting board. But hey, if you don't, check out Tyler over at Westfall Wood Co. He's got a great source of templates that you can use with a router. Makes it super easy. He has a Millennium Falcon one that can be both a cutting board and a serving tray. So go check out Tyler at westfallwoodco.com, and I'll show you a little screenshot here in a second so you can see where to find it at. All right, yeah, so I have the board on. I have it clamped up. It's not going to be sliding around because of the pressure coming off these two pieces. This is actually a really cool design. And I got the 90-degree angle here to make sure it's the zero comes basically to the same point for almost all the projects, not the large flags. I have the V-bit in right now, which we will be getting rid of and putting the 1/4 inch Amana Tools end mill in. Let's see if I can get to focus here for you. There you go. I'm using the Carbide Create to create the design, which I already have set. So there's the outline of the Falcon. I did make a serving tray where it actually had little pieces in here cut out. You can see it on my Instagram at True American Craftsman. But right now, all we're going to do, because it's already set, we just want to make sure that our design width, or our, I should say plank width, is the same. So it's actually 17 inches. So we're going to change that, and the height is 12.75. So we're going to change that. So see that? Now all we're going to do is make this a little bit bigger here. So right now we got a board that's looking at 11.6 tall, 15.6 wide, but we want it a little bit bigger. So we'll do about that. Now the trick here is to make sure that we have enough room so that the bit, because I do an outside cut, so we want to make sure that when we do cut the contour, there's plenty of room on the outside. It looks about good, so we'll go ahead and do that. We're just about 1.25 inches thick for this piece, so our max depth we're going to do 1.23, and anything left over plus the tabs, we put tabs in so it doesn't slide around. Anything left over plus those we'll cut off with the bandsaw. All right, so now we're going to open up Carbide Motion. Now Carbide Motion is what I use to actually cut all the stuff that comes in here, and we're going to go ahead and turn it on. We're going to connect to cutter. And once we connect, we hit initialize. Now it's going to get basically the machine ready to rock, bring it all the way to the starting point. But we're going to go rapid position and bring it up to our current XY. And our current XY should be somewhere right in this corner. Hopefully it is. We'll see. Awesome. So our current XY, the XY is just the the Y and the X axis, right? Just like old school math stuff. All right, so now it's time to set the XY for this bit. For the most part, it's going to be just about the same as I had for the V bit, and it looks like it is. You can't really tell on the camera. So we're going to go ahead and drop it down a little bit just to double check. Right, yeah, right in the center there, and right in the center there. Okay, cool. I like to just slide it over and put it right in the center of my workpiece. I know some people might not do that, but to me that gives it the overall setting point for 0 for the Z axis. And we're just going to drop it down right there. Try and get it to touch the wood just above it. Perfect. So right now all we're going to do is set Z. And we're basically ready to start. All right, so all we're going to do is turn on the router and vacuum and hit the start button, and it'll start basically working by itself. So there's some good things and bad things with the CNC. The first being that it's great how sharp and clean your cuts can get with it, but the bad thing is it takes a long time to do a lot of these, make a lot of these programs and designs. So yes, it does save you time in the shop. You can have it cut one thing while you're doing something else. However, you know, it does have its drawbacks. All right, outline is cut. The only issue was, I guess I didn't really adjust for this in the program, but hey, it didn't even touch the scrap. It was just kind of there, but it still worked. So outline came out really good. We're gonna go ahead and take it over to the bandsaw, get the rest of it chopped off. So essentially I can cut the Falcon design out all the way through the walnut. However, I don't like to cut into my wasteboard too often because I don't want to replace it every couple weeks. I would rather prolong the life out to maybe every couple months. So I don't mind the extra 10 minutes on the bandsaw. And lastly, to get the excess wood off, we use the flush trim bit with a palm router. So I decided to create a little softer of an edge on it and wanted to use the round over bit. And again, I used my palm router to do that on both sides of the Millennium Falcon. So now what we want to do, because this is a cutting board and it will get wet, is use a little bit of water to raise the fibers of the wood. If we do this now, it will prevent the fibers from popping up later on after it gets wet again. So once we raise the fibers, we let it dry, and then we bring the same grit paper that we did last time, the 320 grit, resand the whole thing to get rid of those extra little fibers. One of the final processes and one of the most appealing parts of the process is adding the mineral oil, which I'm using a food-based, food-safe mineral oil here. And I do this before I add the wood wax on, and I let it dry overnight so it soaks up all the mineral oil. I don't dunk it in a bath, like a mineral oil bath like many people do with their cutting boards. I think that's a little overkill for some of them. Maybe for the thicker 2-inch boards so it really gets in the middle, but for this board, something like this, 1.25 inches thick, you know, it's not really going to need that. But it doesn't hurt to be generous. And the final part of the process is adding my homemade Patriot Wood Wax, which is a food-safe mineral oil and beeswax blend, which you can find on my site, trueamericancraftsman.com. Now I let this sit anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, depending on the temperature inside. And then once that's sat for around that long, I take another dry rag and I wipe off any excess wax. And the wood wax helps give it a nice satin look while also keeping it protected from moisture. Hey y'all, so I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a super fun build, especially being a Star Wars fan, making something for myself. If you're a Star Wars fan and you like the build, go and let me know in the comments below. I will be posting these for sale on my website and my Etsy, trueamericancraftsman.com, both in the serving tray style and the cutting board style, as well as a combo, so that you have it for every occasion. But hey, if you like this video, go and hit that like button for me, and if you want to see more like it in the future, hit subscribe.